Good afternoon. I am here with Tyler Leila Tibi.
Yes.
Thank you. God. President, presently President-elect of the State Council. She will be president from 2025 to 2026.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So when you joined the State Council, what were you, a staff, student, clinical
Yep.
coordinator, or manager?
Thank you, Ted. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you here today and speak to my growth within the council. And so when I first joined the state council, I actually was a clinical pharmacist reporting up to Liz Schlom, who was a former president of the council. She was really my mentor, the beginning stages of my growth within the council. As I said, I was the clinical pharmacist at Greater New York Hospital Association Services, then transformed to Acuity, and now we're part of Premier. So that was back in 2003 when I joined the council.
So you mentioned Liz, but who did you meet that made you want to advance in the organization? She got you
Yeah, so
started, but
Yeah, that's a great question, and I love this story. So you may know Joe Mislowak, who was the former director of industry relations. He is was my partner in crime. And also I'm another mentor of mine to help me get my foot in the door within the council. So Joe Mislowak was the former vice president of the pharmacy within Greater New York Hospital Association Services, and I followed him around to many chapter events across the five boroughs and within Long Island. And because I followed him around, I got to meet different individuals within the chapter leadership, and many members that were very close to him as friends and colleagues. Um, One of my very first events that I went to with Joe was the New York City chapter, to which Heather Carlson was the current president elect of the chapter, and got to know her very well. And then, as I said, I followed him to various board meetings. I attended Royals meetings as well as New York City board meetings as well when Heather introduced me to the leadership there. And so I kind of had a dual role in being participatory in both the board with Royals and with the New York City chapter. Observing some of the meeting discussion at both chapters. And because I lived in New York City at the time, I grew to an affinity to the New York City chapter just because it was much easier for me to go, to meetings that they had both from the board level and a chapter level.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, how many of the previous past presidents did you know, and what were they like?
I love this question. So as I said, I became involved in the council back in 2003, so over 20 years ago. And so I can go back, and I don't even know who the president at the time was in 2003. So maybe you can share with me who that was.
Dave
Um,
Blanchard.
yes. And, having met, the various presidents throughout the years, over the 20 plus years that I've been involved, I can say for certain that each of the presidents that I've grown to know and befriend all have a great sense of humor, all exhibiting kindness and welcomeness, from a leadership standpoint, all welcoming me with open arms and inviting me to, continue to grow and lend a helping hand in my growth, in my journey. And I can also say that many of them and all of them have expressed the desire to see me succeed in the council.
What challenges did you see as a member, as a board member, and as the president-elect in the organization?
Yeah, so I remember being invited to a leadership summit, and I want to say this was probably like maybe my second or third year being involved with the council. And I remember it being held in the Albany Capital Region, and I want to say it was on Wolf Road. And I do remember, some of these questions being asked at that time of, what were the challenges that, we as members are facing, and what I continue to see even now as a board member. And number one, obviously the number one is growing our membership and um, being able to show the value to current members as well as potential members and growing that. I still see that as a challenge today. And as a board, we are trying to think strategically as to, different ways we can bring value to the membership and potential grower members. The other challenge I see, and this continues to be a challenge also, is staying afloat and being financially viable as an organization. We are challenged to find different ways to bring in revenue for the council, whether that be through increased membership, also finding alternative sources for revenue, whether it be creating new value add programs to the members and potentially charging for those types of events. Those are ongoing discussions that we have at the board level. And I imagine that, will be continues to be, something that we as a board will continue to keep at the forefront as as a strategy to continue to build, new revenue.
How often and where did the board meet? And was it organized, professional, or was there more camaraderie?
Uh, so when I was part of the board over 10 years ago, I will say that um, in general, it's very cordial and camaraderie, as you say. I thought it was very organized, and each leader had a different style of leading meetings. So I always, really enjoyed seeing how different presidents lead meetings and stayed, organized and also keep to the timing of each of the meetings. Some would go longer than others. Some would, also stay on track, and it was really interesting to see as the different styles of leadership, and hope to mirror some of that as I go into my presidency. I did want to go back to the challenges though, because I did have additional things to say, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, with regards to the challenges, also, I think, grooming new leaders is also very important for us as an organization, and also succession planning. And, with us having a leadership summit, coming to creation this fall, as well as the creation of our succession planning committee, I think that, this is a great, strategy for us as a council to address those needs of grooming new leaders and finding ways to keep interested members, involved in the council, and hopefully identify leaders to succeed the current leadership. And then I also mentioned regarding the redefining the value of our membership is also top of mind as a challenge. And I talked about the revenues, the need to identify new revenue streams, and also redefining the value for our members. So that I think is also a very, very important challenge that we need to address as a board from a strategic lens.
When you were on the board, were there any major mishaps or issues which would be useful for future presidents, including yourself, not to repeat?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it has to do with knowing the history behind some of the issues, and I can't really name anything for example right now, but I think having you as a historian to help us, stay on track and clarify questions that we may have is very helpful. Knock on wood, I don't repeat any major issues, but I can't think of anything for example, that was a major issue. Um, in the observations that I've had as a board representative. So,
Okay.
yep.
The annual assembly, when you first became a member, where were the early annual assemblies held? What were they like?
Yep. So as an attendee of the annual assembly, and I want to say that my very first one was probably at the Sagamore, and that resort, is a very beautiful place. I have a lot of great memories as an attendee at the assembly, and also being on the board and as a participant on the House of Delegates. I also remember our one of the annual assemblies being held at the Turning Stone Casino. Not the best location because and I remember it being a very stuffy location, but just remember being it kind of locked into that that hotel resort. But I mean, it was all of them all being very fun, and being able to network and be regroup. I almost feel as though the annual assemblies are very much like a reunion of my professional peers, and it's a great opportunity to escape for a weekend and be among your pharmacy family and friends.
Uh, as you're coming up, and you'll get to know this, but when you were there, what do you feel the presidential role at the assembly will be? Will it be busy, chaotic, or sedate?
But I imagine it will be very busy, from just the presence that I'll have to be at various events, from the House of Delegates to the networking sessions, also engaging in the residency forum, attending the various educational programmings, as well as hosting the keynote speaker for this year. I imagine it will be very, very busy. And I have, I envision it to be a weekend of me on roller skates per se. But I am looking forward to a very exciting weekend, as I will be installed that weekend, and look forward to the seeing in the crowd, friendly faces, and the immense support that I will receive as I go into this new role.
Generational changes. When you started, did you feel you needed to work your way up to the presidency? New members have a very different philosophy of needing more evenly divided time between work and play.
Yeah.
How do we help them assume these roles in the state council? And will the new members be able to move the council forward?
Yes. So I agree with this statement that, regarding dividing time between work and play. And as leaders of this organization and saying yes to this role that we commit to, there are sacrifices that need to be made in order to give your best self to the organization. And I would not have said yes if I didn't have the time or the support to be able to give back to this organization that has given me so much. I do say that I did need to work up to this role. It was 20 years in the making, having started in this organization as a new leader, and having served on the chapter level, from a committee level support, and then also as chapter secretary, and then assuming the role of presidency at the chapter level for New York City. And then I remember not jumping to a state role right away. I kind of wanted to just kind of view what the work ongoings were from a periphery lens, and then kind of dip my toe into committee work. And that's when I got involved with the director of pharmacy networking sessions at the annual assembly. I did that for a couple of years, and then moved into the role of chair of the annual assembly for 2 years. And I co-led that with Lee Briscoe Dwyer, who, really was a great partner in crime through those, 4 years that we worked together. And, she helped me, stay engaged and excited in the role. Um, after I completed my role as, co-chair of the annual assembly committee, I did take a bit of a hiatus to, um, you know, tend to family life, as I had a growing family at the time, and it gave me an opportunity to divide my time, as this question asked, to give to my family, but also I said, once I have a good bearing of where I am in my family life, I want to give back to the council. And so, I remain close to many of the council members or the committee members on the annual assembly. And then I know that there was a need for uh, finding a treasurer at the time. And so I went for it and, did assume the role of board treasurer for one term. And then again, I had to take a step back to attend to my growing family needs. And again, really dividing my time between family and the council. Uh, it was important for me to take that time away, but knowing that the council was still there and my desire to grow was also still ignited. And when I said, okay, now it's time to go back and, you know, continue to grow within the council, I took on, different roles and to lead the strategic planning committee and, continued that role for a couple of years. And then the opportunity to become or run for president-elect came up. And I said, what, now's the time. It's been, 20 plus years since my involvement. And, I think I'm ready. But I wouldn't have said yes if I didn't have the support that I needed. And so I knew many past presidents had said that, we would love to see you run and, you have our support. And that I will say at least, more than a handful of past presidents have said that to me. And, I am very thankful for their encouragement and their faith in me, and hope I can live up to, the role and, do a great job. And that's, what I'm here to do and set forth to do.
Okay. Any final parting nuggets you want to give to future members who wish to become president?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that don't let that fire of growth die down. If stay engaged as much as you can, and as much as your time can provide, and work with if family is a challenge, talk to your significant other to see how they may support you. I know I would not be able to do this without the support of my husband, and I'm very thankful for him to also encourage me to serve in this capacity. um Lean on those that have been through this role, and if there's interest in moving up, stay close to those people who really want you to succeed. I will say that I continue to dialogue with many of the past presidents who are rooting for me, and I really thank them for that. And so I would say stay engaged as much as you can, get the support that you would need from, your significant other or spouse, and also, stay engaged with those past leaders, and, get that support that you may need if this is something that you want to do.
With that in mind, I will conclude our session.